Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Gardening Worm Farm coming to you on the 30th of August 2020 with a very important question. And the question, or set of questions actually, is can China beat the U.S. in the Pacific, in the region around China? Has China blocked the U.S. ability to fight them effectively? Is the U.S. military and its assets in the Pacific theater in jeopardy of sudden and total destruction by the new Chinese weapons systems? Could forward operating bases in places like Guam, Japan, and the Philippines be hit and rendered completely ineffective by new Chinese interim-range ballistic missiles? The Chinese DF-21 carrier killer and DF-26 Guam killer missiles are game changers, and it will make it much harder for the U.S. to fight China. Do you think that's good or not? Well, that's just something to ponder. So we're going to get into that. And in order to look at that, let's do a share. I'm going to show you some of what we're talking about here. Bam. We talked about this in a previous video just a couple days ago as the Chinese launched these missiles. So now we're going to get into further analysis for what does this mean, the operational capabilities of the U.S. versus China. Should they engage each other? God forbid. Let's hope that don't happen. But, and I'm in no way advocating that, but should it happen, what will it look like? So let's look at this Dongfeng or DF-26 missile. You know, here it is right here. Bang, see that? Bang, the Dongfeng. That's the DF-26. Not a pretty looking missile, it's really large. These are interim range ballistic missiles that we're talking about here. You see, this thing has a range of 4,000 kilometers, which is 2,500 miles. Basically, that's the distance from Seattle to like Daytona Beach, Florida, diagonally across the continental United States. Not this way, but diagonally down into Florida, from Seattle to Florida, 2,500 miles. Or, you know, add 100 miles and it'd be the distance from Hawaii to Seattle, something like that, a long distance. So these are very powerful weapons. They carry over a ton of explosives in each one, like 600 kilograms. I think that's 1,320 pounds or something like that. I figured out last time. So if we look at these guys, what we find is the DF-21 has this kind of a range pattern. That's when launched from central China, by the way. So this is what we're looking at. Huge range, and this range includes Philippines, it includes Japan, it includes Guam. Of course, there's Taiwan here and many other islands in the area. It includes much of the ocean in this area here, the Bay of Bengali. You know, the Indian Ocean is susceptible down in here. But we might have some bases here. It might be out of range, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's see what we're talking about with this launch. This like DF-26 and DF-21. There's some bases like the, now they've been testing them out here, but the main launch base has been the 666 Brigade base. And from there we had to 4,000 miles. So that easily encompasses Guam, Tokyo, Manila. That gets all the Philippines when we're launching here. It gets even more interesting. This is what I told you in our last briefing a few days ago from the 666, yeah, interesting, right? Brigade base area. Yeah, what would they name it that? Especially from an atheist Chinese Communist Party. But look at this. China's new DF-26 missile bases show up in eastern China. So they're moving these all the way over toward the coast. Not good. Give it even more range. Also, less time from a launch to target. That may be more significant. So there's less time to react, less time to track. So there you are. They are putting these missiles in eastern China. There it is, the DF-26. So we do have certain defenses. I'll show you that in a second. I'll show you another picture of that in a moment. guys, you really need to consider prep. I'm going to go in and talk about these quite a bit here in just a second. We're about to go into the analysis of the paralysis, what all this means, right? But you better really consider. I'm going to talk to you and tell you why that the iron is hot, why this may be the very best time for China to strike us. I'm going to wind up this conversation. Why, militarily speaking, just from the standpoint of the assets of what we have and what China has, the iron is hottest right now for them. And geopolitically, it's the same thing. Now, what does that mean they'll strike? No, it does not mean that. But there's things to be concerned with right now that you really need to keep your eyes wide open and head on the swivel. Because the proposition of my channel is if you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And to survive, you need to prep. You need to go to, and really consider going to prepwithgreg.com. Why? Because you get $100 off right now, $100 off a 4-week supply of food. And look at this. We're talking less than $200 to feed one person for a month, for 4 weeks, with 2,000 calories a day. And this is food that you can store for a long time, 25 years. So if you think that's a bargain now with food inflation, that's going to be a super bargain 25 years from now. I would consider it an investment. This might be one of the best ways to invest your money, if you have it, spend that is. Hey, it's not cheap, $197, but I'm going to tell you something. I just spent more money on that at Sam's Club for stuff that's bulk and heavy. The good thing about this stuff is it's packaged, freeze-dried. It's packaged where you've got to add water to it to make it rehydrate. But look, it makes beautiful food. You make beautiful meals with this. 2,000 calories a day. Can't beat it with this stuff. Scrumptious food, yeah, the noodles are noodles. Everything comes out. That's good. You even get dessert and drinks. How about that? 24 servings of orange energy drink. Nice. Strawberry flavored cream of wheat, chocolate, pudding, cream chicken flavored rice. Oh, I'm getting hungry. So this is a great deal. It's easy to carry packages. So consider this right now because the food inflation going up, I can't expect these prices to last for long. Supplies may be in jeopardy. And if we get an EMP attack or something like that, you won't be able to order anything. And who knows, in our nation's in strife here internally, it could tear everything apart. Transportation may be at risk. The postal department is overtaxed. You better get it while the getting's good. That's all I got to say. So my motto is get it while the getting's good. So let's go back into some of these other things. I'm going to stop the share. Hello. And we're going to talk. I'm just going to tell you about these things. So let's talk about why these things matter. Our bomber fleet in the Pacific will be flying extremely long sorties. And how will this affect fighter jet support? What you have to know here is that China's anti-access aerial denial umbrella established by these missiles is very significant. The combination of the cruise missiles and ballistic missiles can put all of our bases under quite a risk. And to put it in perspective, here's a quote from Lieutenant General David S. Nahom, the Air Force Deputy Chief of Staff for Plans and Programs. He told retired General David Tella, the Dean of the Mitchell Institute of Aerospace Studies and Research, he said this. He said, in Desert Storm, we had access to many bases and other surrounding countries, such as Saudi Arabia. Access today may be tough. So having a long-range strike for our bombers and bases that we control makes for a different discussion. What that means, what he translates is this. In our previous conflicts where we, had shock and awe, where we went in and knocked out all their communication systems and everything, they didn't know what to do. We weren't taking away their communications or power before we even went in with bombers or did anything. We did this with fighter bombers, fighter jets, and we just flew multiple sorties in these countries, bam, 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 from bases all around these countries, close to them. We're not going to have that luxury with China. And furthermore, our bases that we do have that are close to them, they're further out in the Guam and Manila, potentially Manila, if we get back to the Philippines. Looks like that's some progress. In Tokyo area, China, Japan. These bases are further off. We do have other bases, but they're further off. And most of those, as I just showed you, are within this strike capability. Our aircraft carriers may be in the area, but they're also, you know what they do? They got carrier killers. They are within that strike area. So not only are our bases under a threat there, and they're further off. So if they're hit and struck by these systems, if they're taken out, and right now they may have a window of capability in there, or we're highly vulnerable, then they may be more emboldened from China to take action, especially China's ambition is to take Taiwan. So we've talked about this, how right now they're amassing amphibious vehicles like crazy right across the Taiwanese Strait. Now that Taiwan's got all these zillions of missiles, they've got 10,000 missiles to rain over mainland China. So how and why would China dream of doing that? Well, it's a bit of a feather in the cap, maybe to the CCP, but you know, they may have a plan to neutralize those missiles. How they do that? That's a good question. They must have something up their sleeve. Some major EMP thing. Maybe they just pop something out of a submarine and do a major EMP attack. We do know they have, through their EM weapons, electronic warfare weapons, I should say, EW weapons, that they have taken out, and they've neutralized U.S. warships out in the South China Sea area on a couple of occasions. So we do know they have some of these kind of capabilities. Could they do this to the missile fleet in Taiwan? I don't know. You know, those missiles are further inland than the ship. Might be harder to do without a nuclear type EMP device when set off. You know, maybe a tactical weapon. Tactical, I do not know. They may use backpack devices. How would they take that on? If they're really truly planning to attack Taiwan, then you would think that they probably got that covered. Let's hope not. Let's hope that Taiwan's deterrent is sufficient to keep them out of there. Now, they might take a couple of Taiwans out of their islands, claim victory, and move on. I'm going to talk about Taiwan in the future video. Why Taiwan? Taiwan has never been part of the PRC. So this whole story of one China under the PRC, it's never been. They're not a breakaway province. The Republic of China had the entire country, but the leadership fled to Taiwan. I'll talk more about that in the future, but that's not the subject of this video. So let's go back to what they're talking about here. Shorter range regional missions can be easily compromised, if not eliminated, by a lack of combat access within striking range. There are few weapons, perhaps with the exception of intercontinental ballistic missiles, the kind we fire from our silos here in the United States, or hypersonics, which is a real super fast devices that right now Russia and China seem to have a lead in, but we're coming up fast too. And long range bombers that are able to cross the continents and attack on a single mission, single attack, with long range weapon systems. So that may be what we're reliant on. Bombers, such as the combat tested B-2, have done this. And they've done it recently during the operation of Enduring Freedom over Afghanistan. Of course, Afghanistan didn't have a lot of stuff to throw up at the B-2s, did they? You know, they didn't have fighter jets and long-range missiles and surface-to-air missiles and blah, 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 blah. So you would think that fighting Afghanistan with B-2 would be easier than taking on China, right? So, yeah, so Enduring Freedom, the Air Force B-2s flew from Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri to Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is a small island off the coast of India. I kind of showed you a little bit ago when I was showing some pictures. They're way down below India, not just off the coast. So they're down in the Indian Ocean, and we've used that as a base to operate from. So from there, it's probably would be going to China. But see, it takes a lot of time to get these bombers in place to fly them over, you know, to China. We're just talking through it. Should this happen? Since regional forces such as U.S. assets in Guam and nearby Allied bases are potentially face a higher threat from the attack, the U.S. must rely on some of these other assets. The reality of our bomber fleet here in the Pacific is that they will be flying really long sortie missions. And this is what Brigadier General Mike Winkler, Pacific Air Force Director of strategic plans, requirements, and programs. So the Mitchell Institute, when I started the reality of our bombers here in the Pacific is that they will be flying really long sortie missions. China's anti-access aerial denial umbrella is significant. Their combination of cruise missiles and ballistic missiles to polar bases within the second island chain under risk. That's basically what I said earlier, right? Winkler further indicated that any major engagement with China, we would take more casualties on the ground than we would in the air. We would have to put in significant ground forces to make it work. And that is ugly, very ugly, especially if you don't have sufficient air support. Don't forget, China's got 1.4 billion people. They have a huge military. So I don't even know what this guy is dreaming about here. Other defense may help achieve parity with this. So most current defenses that rely upon sensors and interceptors such as emerging laser weapons, especially, you know, ship-based lasers may really play a good role here. Hit-to-kill missile defenses, electronic warfare, EW, and target tracking network systems. Okay, and we're going to talk about some of these missiles in a little bit. So the United States is making rapid progress, thankfully, in several emerging missile defense systems that are expected to emerge in just the next several years. But they're not already yet. Even if the existing state of protections are deficient, that may not be the case in just a few years. Defenses are already much different than they were as recently as a year ago, due to emergent EW guidance, jamming technology, cyber hardening, networking, multi-frequency, 360-degree radar now arriving, and ground fire laser interceptors. Land Defense Command and Control is now vastly different than it was a year ago. These are all true things. In recent tests, upgraded Patriot missiles succeeded in tracking and destroying multiple moving targets, bringing a new dimension to the Army base protection. The Patriots now have new guidance systems, warheads, radar applications, range and fire control systems, making them far more effective than they were in the Gulf War, from which you may remember them. Radar technologies from the Sentinel, Patriot, and theater altitude air defenses are no longer, you know, stovepipe and cut off from each other. They have a whole new data fusion integration of how they all work together and share single command and control infrastructure. And there's a lot of other weapon platforms across the various agencies that are part of this. Also bear in mind the Navy Aegis missile could be brought into play in this. It's a very capable system, by the way. And there's concepts, that's a shipborne system, but there's also concepts for Aegis ashore, which may be what we need to be protecting us in our Gulf shore from attack. And I'll have Ambassador Cooper come back on my channel. We're going to talk about that against the kind of threat that we've talked about from having a launch from maybe offshore from Venezuela or anything else coming over the South Pole at us. There are ways to defend from that, but we don't have that in place presently. How fast can we do that? That's a really good question. The Chinese threat in the region is growing, and it's serious. The technical and military superiority enjoyed by the U.S. military seems to be rapidly eroding. The challenges may not be to only bring these emergent systems to fruition quickly, but to ensure they're built and deployed in sufficient numbers to bring the intended defensive effect. But in the meantime, there is a gap. Will this late autumn, early winter present the best opportunity for China to strike? That's the question that I have to ask. Why? Because our capabilities coming up, their capabilities are already, now that they've developed these missiles, they're already there where they could hit us and wipe out a lot of our stuff. And we've not adequately adjusted for that at this moment. Also, right now, at this moment, the CCP is under unique pressures on the home front. And Xi Jinping, the president of China, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is under a lot of stress. His leadership is challenged. A man like that does not want to lose his power position. It could be fatal when you're a dictator. So especially when you're a man as powerful as he is, they will do, and the CCP itself will do anything in its power to stay in power. Their power is always more important to them than the safety of their own people. And if you don't believe that, then answer me this. Why is it that China has been making decisions to blow dikes and to allow the downstream to flood, but they won't announce it to the people because they're afraid that if they tell them, it won't be an act of God, and they'll have to pay insurance to the people they flood downstream in their country. Really? Yeah, they're taking care of their people, right? No. They only care about their own power. Any notion that they're really caring about their people is a deception. In China, you have to have insurance. In China, you have to, if you don't have a job, you're not making money. In China, people with different jobs make different money. You have billionaires in China. Come on, guys. I'm not saying billionaires is a bad thing. That provided the incentive that allowed their system to grow as rapidly as it did and their economy to build. But it's not the kind of society that most people think it is. I talked about that in other videos. But just go to the dictionary and go to Wikipedia. Look, communism, look, fascism, and check them side by side and rate China's CCP. And you tell me what you think it is. Well, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I'll let you go figure that out. And I'm not saying that either system's good. No, they're both one-party totalitarian systems. I said they're both bad, but things aren't what they're advertised to be. Okay, can you at least get that? Grant me that. All right. All that said, I'm going to show you this theater altitude defense system. Hang on, I'm going to go back to here. Yeah, that's it. Bam. This is another defense system developed by the U.S. Army, right in Redstone Arsenal, where I work. But I actually work for NASA, which is based as a contractor at Redstone Arsenal. I'm a contractor, not a government civil service guy. But this is part of the Missile Defense Agency development, which is a place I used to work. As you may know, SDIO, which was the higher level of this, was once ran by Ambassador Hank Cooper, who I've already had on my channel once. The man who ran this, at the higher level, at SDIO level. So, this is huge. But this is a theater high altitude area defense missile right here. Bam. And it is installed in Guam right now. So we do have some defensive measures in place, and they will get better. But China right now may have the upper hand. So would they play that hand? I don't know. If they play that hand now, can we win? We haven't fought a war like this. We haven't fought a war where we had the states from so far away. We've never done that. Not a full-blown war. Yeah, we've shot terrorists with drones. We're being flown somewhere in Virginia and flying over to Afghanistan. But we're talking about fighting a nation here. We're talking about fighting a premier economy in the world that's got one of the top militaries that's got a huge population. And they're fighting them in their territory from a long distance. Any strategist knows that the guy on the home turf has the advantage. When you're fighting on the outside, there's a severe disadvantage. So if we're trying to take them where they're at, it wouldn't play well unless we use things like ICBMs, hypersonics, and of course, the B-2s. But that's an ugly war. Now, you start firing ICBMs, they're going to think more about the nuke them and their loved ones, what they have. So that's not where we want to go. I really hope we can find peace, but we can't let them run over us. We can't give in because they're very aggressive. Once we said never again, when a nation that had a similar political system took advantage of their people, like happened to the Jewish people in the Holocaust. We do not want to see a system going on like that today, but it is going on. Look at what the Chinese are doing to Uyghurs and the Falun Gong. It's a very, very ugly situation there, what's happening. And I could go into that and do videos on that till the cows come home. And that's not the point of this video. Also, I will repeat something that I'm often saying, and I should have said it at the beginning of this video. There's good people in every country, including mainland China. There are good people there. There are good people everywhere. Now, I would even submit that some members of the CCP, at least the lower level ones, they're good people. They're just kind of trying to get along. So, you know, they may not really, at their heart, be what the party is. They're just members. Just because you're a member don't mean you really go along with everything. It may be to do it for a job, but again, that means you're kind of implicitly going along, right? So, but there are good people in every land, from every background, every country, even with different perspectives. Sometimes perspectives are just different. I don't mean the person is not good at their heart. So let's hope that we find a way to make peace. My real hope would be that the CCP would go away, that the people would get tired of it and get rid of it, and that China might reunite in the Republic of China. Would that be the one, China? That would be highly interesting. Hey, that's the way it used to be at one time. We're really close to that. So we'll talk more about that in the future. Hey, people in Taiwan and the people in China, they're both Chinese people. Okay? They really are. But, you know, hey, I've dated a girl from mainland China, from Guangdong. And and then, hey, I have a lot of respect for a lot of people there. They're good people. Lots of them are. It's just the system they're under. What happens is our governments pit us against each other, including our very own. And it's done in ways that do not benefit anyone. We do have to defend ourselves. We can't let them run over us. And you know, there is that never again. We said we'll never let it happen. What happened? The Holocaust happened again. And yet we're already doing that. So how do you deal with it? Well, how we've dealt with it is we've ignored it. We've traded with them and closed our eyes and act like it wasn't happening. Well, maybe we shouldn't bomb them, you know, out of existence, but how about just starting them off? Why do we have to trade with them? The whole world's trading with them because we're greedy. We're a big economy. We've allowed them to become a big economy. We promoted that ourselves. But now that they're there, everybody in the world wants to trade with them because they're just licking their lips at the idea of what they can buy from them, what they can sell to them. And our greed has blinded us from what's important from the standpoint of human values. Human values, the value of life. In this case, Muslims, the Uyghurs, or the Falun Gong, a different religious group. They're been highly discriminated against and highly persecuted in China. So let's hope that can come to an end. Let's hope that the people, the citizens of China, they are living under the jackboot of the CCP. They would be far better off if they had a more representative government that gave them the chances, that gave them freedoms, that gave them a lot of what we used to enjoy here in the United States, a lot of what we still have some sliver of and hope to restore to some degree. So if you should get this far in this video, just tell me the pen is mightier than the sword. I don't know you watch this long. I like to throw little hints out there to see who's watched. But I'll put a link below, HAL5space at AOL.com. If you're interested in joining our Freedom Restoration Foundation, email me there and put freedom in the subject line. If you're interested in joining our tribe movement, our local survival tribes, put tribe in the subject line. Anyway, so the big question, could China beat us right now if we engage with them? Some people think they could, even right now. What I would say is we would have a difficult road to hoe if we wind up in a military engagement with China. And I do not advocate that. And I don't think anybody directly wants that unless Xi Jinping does. The problem is that there is a risk of miscalculation and escalation. Let's hope that should we find ourselves in that we find a way out. And there is one other risk. The ultimate thing that bugs me is this. globalism. The globalists hate the United States because we're the one country that stands in the way of their great dreams. And it could be that we stop at nothing. If we are going to be perpetually in the way and stopping them and blocking them, maybe they would be behind something the CCP might do that we just couldn't dream of. You know, that could be one maybe they would launch an attack. And it might be if they see, I don't know, you know, there are many reasons. I'm not going to go into all of them. There are many reasons that I think that this late fall and winter were very susceptible to this. You know, there was the dream, the vision that Stacy Savicki had. I did a video on that, where she saw us getting attacked in this manner by 2 missiles coming from offshore Venezuela, and one going over the Midwest and one going over the East Coast and generating EMP explosions. She didn't know what that was when she had this dream, and she had no idea about why that was such a tactically believable means for an attack that would have some degree of deniability as to its origin. Because China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, they all are playing in that area right now with Venezuela. And we don't have any radars monitoring from that direction. We don't have any defenses mounted in that direction, even though at my very first Power Grid Defense Conference back in 1996, Ambassador Hank Cooper was calling for us to put an Aegis Ashore system on the Gulf of Mexico to protect us from such things. Had we had that system installed, we wouldn't be worrying about this right now. But it's not been done. So maybe we need to renew the call for that. I'll plan to get them back on this channel. Do we have enough time? Maybe we just need to put an Aegis ship out there to take care of us. In the meantime, could we put a theater altitude defense? Could these new Patriots be effective? Theater altitude area defense would probably be a better missile than a Patriot for this application, but we shall see. It's a shame we have to discuss such things. To be quite honest, it's a real shame that we even have to think about, ponder, and discuss such things. Let us hope that we can find ways to break through all this and let the people from each country learn how to interact with each other, sans all these big organizations that play us against each other. That's something we will hope to work toward. But anytime you get a chance to talk to the people from these other areas, be friendly. You know, you don't know that this person, unless you do know them and know that they are. Now, if you do know they're representative of CCP and what they're up to, then yeah, I don't think I'd give them a dime. But you know, if it's just a regular Joe from China, give them the benefit of the doubt. They may need some help. They might appreciate some friendship and be able to carry that home and say, hey, you know, I meet Americans are great people. You know, if we could turn this whole conversation around, we might have a chance for hope for the future. And but I'm afraid things are coming and coming fast. I'm really worried about this time frame, late November, mainly in December, early January, this time frame between the elections and the inauguration, that time frame, that concerns me. So also winter is the optimum time to hit the United States because troops go home. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. I always worried about that when I was in the Army. When we were all going home for Christmas, it was like, wow, well, the Ruskies don't do something now. All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all watching. Be sure also to check my links below to support me by you do need to grow your own garden. My links to True Leaf Market is a great source of heirloom seeds. Check them out. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching and to share, and hope everyone has an awesome, good week next week. Goodbye.